there's the stream.
Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba.
Open up my chats.
Bit it,
Oh
bit it,
shit! I
bit
didn't
it,
give you
bit
guys
it.
Zencaster yet.
We'll get there. We're letting you. Your system's laggy, so I wasn't gonna bug you.
Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah, it's a process.
it. There you go. Zencaster, and I'll wait for you guys to get in there, and then we'll start local recordings. John is there.
I am in there.
Health checks out. Tommy Boy's in there. Okay. Start local recordings in 3, 2, 1.
Hold on. Sorry, my Audacity won't start.
Okay.
Okay,
All
there
right,
we go.
I'm
There we
fine.
go.
Okay.
Start again.
3, 2, 1. Clap check.
Bit it, bit it,
3, 2, 1.
doo-doo.
Awesome. Awesome. Boop, 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 doo, doo, doo. Retweets are appreciated.
Already ready, done, done.
All right. I made some changes, and hopefully we stop with the dupes um, in chat. I'm hoping, but let me go ahead here. We continue our march to 200. All right. Okay. Wait, are you guys hearing that background noise?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, let me close that door.
No help.
No help. FYI, that Discord link doesn't actually work. It says it's an expired link. Well, god damn it. Of course, I shut the door and now the dog wants out. Get out. Get out if you want out. Okay, we'll check that out. It should be working, but we'll give it a shot. What's so funny?
Yeah. Have you paid attention to the PHP Architect Discord?
No. All right, I'm gonna start
That's
the
funny.
show though. Let me pull up my little script now.
Why?
Start,
This is way funnier than our show is going to be.
starting the show. Well, I need to get to start posting in their Discord. All right. Hello, my fellow coding warriors. You're listening to episode 191 of PHP Ugly. And despite what the title may lead you to believe, we're a podcast of people passionate about PHP development. We're 3 developers who make a living coding and running a development business. We get together every week to stream and discuss coding, projects, work, tech, and running our business. From time to time, you'll hear us rant about editors. Did I already use editors? I feel like I've used editors already. Oh, anyways, I'm your host.
No, it was
I don't,
Enterprise
I don't
last
think
week.
that.
I need to come up with some more. Okay. Anyways, I'm your host, Eric Van Johnson, and with me are my good friends, Thomas Rideout.
Hello.
And John Congdon.
Getting better and better at these intros.
I totally botched that one. I need to, I've been saying I'm going to go ahead and do a Fiverr and just pay somebody to do it for me, but I haven't done it yet.
I thought about surprising you with that, but I haven't done it either. So
Yeah, I'll get to it. I don't know, man. It's everything we got going on. It's not very high on my priority list of things to get done, but I need to get it done. So we have Corbob. Am I pronouncing that right? Corbob in chat, letting us know. Hey, look at that. The chat didn't even duplicate. That's awesome. Letting us know that our Discord link is not working. So I need to look into that. I don't know why that wouldn't be working, but we'll go with it.
Try it in another browser.
I'm gonna do it right now. Or did you do it already?
Just no, I'm asking Corbob to do it because I got an invite to another Discord channel a while ago, and I kept getting that same thing every time, and they kept giving me a new link, and I would get that same error. As soon as I tried it in Firefox, it worked fine. I have no clue why. I don't know if there was some sort of cookies or something cached that
he's right. I just
stopped
went
it.
to it. It says valid. Invite invalid. That sucks.
I don't know. Did you try it in a different browser?
Yeah. I'll go with yes.
I can smell that lie from here.
All right, man. We'll look at that. I don't even know how to tell people to get to her. I mean, the Discord is still a thing, so I don't know how to tell people to get to it. If I don't know, maybe I have to create a new invite or something. All right, we're not gonna worry about that. We're gonna get on to show stuff. How's everybody doing?
Doing good. Thomas, what was with the I'm not doing so good.
Just a pain in the ass thing that I'm working on where I've got two tables that are polymorphic pointing at each other, and I'm trying to figure out how to get them linked correctly, and it's just such an ugly headache of a mess.
You got two tables that are polymorphic that are linked to each other. Why would first thing, if it's polymorphic, it's got to be more than two tables, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's like 7 tables total, but these two polymorphic tables are pivot tables as well. So Laravel doesn't have a good way of doing what I would call morphs many through, which is the functionality I'm looking for, and it's been a headache today, but all things considered, not too bad. Did have some interesting stuff happen this week. Did an interview.
Oh wait, a
job?
job?
What? Really?
Yes.
Why
yes.
are you doing job interviews? You're supposed to come to me before you do these things. You know that, right?
I've been telling you about it for like weeks.
I'm sorry, I don't pay attention to what you say.
Yeah, you have to listen.
On me.
But the thing that got me was at some point during the interview, one of the senior devs said, "I know this is off topic, but I hear you play Rocket League."
How does Stalker know you played Rocket League?
Well, so we talked about it for a few minutes, and then that was just sort of the general end of the interview process. But then I started thinking about it, and I have no idea how he knew that.
Really? Is it really a complete mystery to you, or are you just being funny?
Absolutely. There is only one way that he could possibly know that.
I know of 2 ways, and I don't even play the game, but go ahead, let me hear.
What 2 ways do you know of? Because I can only think of one.
He found you on Rocket League, or he listens to the show.
No, because he would not know that was me.
He listens to the show.
Right. But he didn't, in the hour-long period of time, mention that he listens to the show. He just said, "I hear you play Rocket League."
Well.
And if he does listen to the show, it means that he has to listen to the show enough that Rocket League has come up.
I'll give that to you. Which we don't talk about it frequently. I mean, it's not like it's
right. It's like maybe every month or so I'll mention it, and it's. I think we mentioned it a month ago, 4 episodes ago, but I ended up completely baffled because I started looking up all of my names on Google and seeing if I could find myself or find my Steam account. I tried everything I could. I read every word of my resume over again to make sure that I didn't mention Rocket League or anything like that. I cannot figure. If he doesn't listen to the podcast, I don't know.
So you realize in an interview you're allowed to ask questions back. Oh, really?
But that was the thing.
Where did you hear that? How did you know?
It didn't occur to me that was weird until after the interview when I was like, wait a second, how would he know? That because there's no my gaming profile 100% separate from my real life profile. There's my real name isn't anywhere on it. I don't link to my Steam account through Facebook or anything like that. There's nothing. So, and he is significantly better than me at Rocket League.
Did you find him on Rocket League?
All right. Yeah.
No, I don't know who he is.
Significantly better then.
He told me he asked what my rank was, and I told him I'm a Diamond 3, and he's a grand champion. That's the highest rank possible.
I believe you.
Yeah. I had a weird thing happen. Since we're talking about Rocket League, I had the weirdest thing happen to me today on it. I had someone begging me to let them win. I need this. Please let me win. I'm like,
oh, I've done that.
That's not how it works, though.
Really?
Oh, yeah. When you're one game away from breaking that barrier to the next rank.
Then you're just going to fall right back down. You beg to win?
No, because when you break through a rank, you get ranked up twice. So you start in Division 2 of the next rank. If you're on your last game to rank up and you lose that game, you're now 3 games behind ranking up. You have to win 3 times in a row to get back.
I felt bad for the kid, but I still beat him like 7-1.
Get him to Brazil.
I felt bad, but not that bad.
He was offering me. He said, "Hey, you want this car?" I'm like, "No, I don't." Come on, I'll give you credits. No, I don't care about any of that.
Oh, that's brutal.
Anyway,
I would have let him win.
So
I want to win too. That's the whole point of the game.
So I mentioned I'm
talking
about coding.
Okay, wait, no, before you move on, you don't understand how competitive I am. My wife got mad at me this week because I beat my kid at Ticket to Ride. Not that that's unusual, but it was the way in which I beat him that she got upset about.
Just flip the board in his face.
So
Suck it, kid.
It was me.
I'm gonna go fuck your mom now. Boom!
I'm not your real man. Pow!
All right. Come on, let me get this out. It's funny. It's me, the 5-year-old, the 3-year-old playing the game. Which, by the way, my 3-year-old, for being 3, is amazing at the game. But we're playing. The 3-year-old wins. And as soon as he wins, I look at the 5-year-old and he has this dejected look on his face, like, what? Really? And he looks at me, Dad, can we play for second place? Sure, kid. Then I win.
Yeah, you want to put money on?
After seeing that look, and I still played the cards to beat him. I didn't let him win. And my wife was like, what?
Oh, there were $10
I'm sorry.
on the line.
It's an issue.
What did you want me to do?
Yeah, no. If you win, you can stay up till 9 o'clock. If I win, there's another camera going up in your room.
I am cruel. I am not a very good dad.
No, Rocket League is very competitive. I understand that you wouldn't give up a win, but it's also an incredibly toxic place. And like I don't really have a problem doing my part to like reduce the toxicity by helping somebody out if they were begging for it. Cuz that you get to those high levels. I had a guy start a game and the guy it was a three-person team and he was fighting with the other player in a previous match. So this match started and he just started shooting on his own goal. He didn't even try to play the game. And I mean, just the things people do in that game is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a team game about
I mean, it sounds
individual
like a team
skill.
game.
So it's a nightmare.
All right, so we talked. I used code editors, as an example in my intro, and it's funny. I guess I had that on the mind because we've been we've been pricing out code editors for our team, and like I understand this,
We're
you
not
know.
telling people that. Just kidding. Go ahead.
Oh,
No, I'm just
okay.
kidding. Go ahead.
I know this is a thing, and it's always kind of bothered me. But like now, being a business owner, it bothers me so much more. It's ridiculous. Uh, we use PHP Storm in our company. I mean, everybody can use whatever they want. It doesn't matter. But the one that a lot of us standardized on was PHP Storm. As John reminded me today, we've said many times in the past, it's the tool for professionals, right? If you get paid to code, then it's worth the money to buy Storm. Except, well, not except, but if you go and get a personal license for Storm, it's $89 a year. That very same license for that very same hardware or software for a business is $200 a year. Was it, John?
Yeah,
I think it was like
I think so.
$199 a year.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because with the number of licenses we need to get, it was like a 5%
It's
discount.
just like there was like nothing different about it. I mean, I'm already cool with you giving it away for free for enterprise. I'm already cool with you, giving major discounts to students and all that. But I don't know if you're a professional paying for it. I don't know, man. I think it should all be it needs to be. I don't know. I'm on the different side of the fence, so I guess that's the biggest thing with it.
Take a quick pause, Eric. Turn your levels up there,
Did you
kiddo.
say up? Did you say up?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
How's
ENOBS.
that?
there's somebody on YouTube saying
Oh,
you're low.
thanks.
Oh, I hear you fine. It's in YouTube that
How's
it's
that?
quiet.
Yeah,
How's that, Daryl?
NDS Eric.
Is that any better? I assume that's how you pronounce that. But let me know if that's any better. And I know we're in a delay, so we'll just keep moving forward. Just type it in there, and nice waking up to PHP.
Yeah.
Where would you be waking up right now? I guess
Well, you can ask Florian. Where are you at? Where
Yeah.
you're just waking up?
Michigan. Up, up.
I woke up for this.
You're saying I need to go up more? All right, let me go ahead and put in OBS too. But I mean, I really can't actually turn myself
Yeah.
up. That's better. Frank said that's better. All right. I'm not that important on this show. You really don't want to hear what I had to say. Matter of fact, 90% of our corrections are because of my statements. I'm pretty sure of that.
I'll correct you next week on that statistic.
Unlike last week's show where everything everyone said was wrong.
Indeed.
Well, speaking of corrections, I did have something pop up on my calendar today. Does anyone want to guess on what it was?
Does this have to do with
Bro.
Microsoft purchasing
What they purchased?
PHP Storm?
It was not Microsoft. It was Google. Google buying JetBrains.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, from episode 153.
Well, I was gonna say that was my prediction. Oh, so that just popped up. You're just reminding yourself of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say that was my prediction. I guessed that. Yeah.
Well, was it yours? I don't remember that. I thought it was Thomas's. We'll have to go back to 153 and see. But anyway, going back to editors. I was so torn on that because you had brought up like, do we spend the money for everybody to standardize on it because of a business license and being so much more expensive? Or do we just say, as a company, we're standardizing on VS Code? And I decided, not decided, I was on that side of, we are professionals. This is what we do for a living. We should have the tools that we find useful. And I wasn't going to change. And you even said it was hard for you to change too.
But my whole thing is, if we standardize on VS Code, we have to dog food it for a while. And John's like, I'm not interested in that. I'm like, all right, man. Put our money where our mouth is, I guess. So that's what we're doing.
So to all the DiegoDev employees, you're hearing it here first. Don't renew your license if it's coming up, because we're going to find a way to cover that.
Yeah, we got you guys. If you guys want, again, obviously they're always free to use whatever editors they want, but if they want a Storm license, we will pay for it. John will pay for it.
Yeah, I got to contact sales and figure out what we need to do for that.
Man. Besides that, I don't know, man. Not much is going on. It's just been like a grind lately. I've been playing around a lot with relationships in Laravel, but I mean nothing spectacular. I'm telling you, I'm still so sold on the new Blade components. I want to make sure I name that correctly. The Blade components in Laravel, and not to mention Livewire. I'm not using Livewire as much as I thought I would. Not yet.
No, wait, what? Say it again slowly.
I'm not using Livewire as much as I thought I would yet, just because I'm working on a project where I'm trying to get it out the door, and everywhere I think I want to implement it doesn't. I'm not thinking about it correctly. So I've found myself stepping back from my Livewire components, but the Blade components are exactly the same. I mean, it just doesn't have that dynamic aspect of it, the Livewire component of it. But I tell you what, I don't know if I don't think I will ever go back, as long as this Blade components remain a standard in Laravel. I think I have moved on from the traditional way of doing Blade templates, as far as doing the layout and then including doing a yield in the layout and extending the layout and putting your stuff in there. I'm switching everything over to Blade components, just because it just feels so much nicer, and to have that added functionality of basically a blade model, I guess you would call it. I don't even know what you would call it, but having that controller associated to your blade view and being able to do some legwork in there without having to call a separate controller. I'll tell you, it's changed. It's changed.
You lost me with that one. So are you putting business logic into your layouts, into your views?
No. So the way the Blade components work is the layout piece is very much a Blade template. The syntax to include it into other blades is different. It's more of a JavaScript sort of syntax. But every Blade component you have the option of including a Blade model with it. So it's in your app folder. It's not in your resources folder. It's in your app folder under views, I think. Yeah, app views, and it's a 1-for-1 for your Blade view. So if you name a Blade view home, and it's a component, a Blade component, you can have the option of having a home model. I still call it a model. It's a controller.
It's
exactly.
a class.
It's a class associated, right? Not a controller. Only to that Blade template. So instead of passing things to the Blade template, because let's just say it's a home controller, and all you need is to bring up, I don't know, a banner or something. Instead of having to create a separate controller for home index, do your logic there, and then pass it to your blade view, you don't have to do any of that. You can actually call the view directly from your route and do the logic in the blade model. What I refer to as blade model, but the controller associated to the blade view. I'll show it to you.
Yeah, it's just naming at this point because I'm used to controller being more handling web requests, not handling this. Models being more tied to the
Yeah,
data
that's
layer,
that's
at
a
least
good point.
from
Yeah.
the Laravel perspective of a model. So it's a view class. It's a blade class,
Okay, we'll call it
basically,
we'll
of some
call it a
sort.
blade class then.
Uh, it sounds like it's more of a helper too. It's a helper
Yeah,
type
I
of
mean,
class
you can
where
definitely look
you
at it that
can.
way, but it's smart, right? Because you don't it has a render function, a render method, which calls the blade uh, in the resource file, but you can add additional methods to it and not pass those methods to the render, but they're accessible to the blade template. So let's say you create a method called cars, and you call into your database to get all the models of the cars you have. Well, that's all you have to do. You just have that method called cars. You return your cars all models, whatever you want, and now the variable cars is available to you in your template, and you don't have to pass it. It's automatically passed because this is a method. It's slick, man. I'm telling you, it's
Hmm,
very slick.
interesting.
So I've gotten super addicted to it lately. I can't even think about going back to the old format. And that's what I was saying when I first started exploring this, because this is, I think, blade components have been around for a while, but I think this new syntax and the fact that there's a blade class associated to it is fairly new. And when it was first announced, and I first did it, just using the syntax alone, I'm like, wow, this looks so much cleaner to read. I like how it looks instead of having all the ats, extend, at this, at that, because you can actually pass things. So if you do the same method, you have like a layout blade, and then you can actually call another blade that that is actually extending that, but you're not extending it anymore. In the blades you call, you have syntax in it that calls your layout, and then you have a slot in the layout where this code goes. But you can pass things to it, so you can like call your layout, and you can pass the title when you call it. It's so slick. I should just show you guys because it's. I know I'm getting lost. That's always the fun thing about talking about code. It's like you really need to see it, but it's super super slick. But my concern was when I first looked at it, when I just
Yeah.
saw the syntax and how you did it, I'm like, wow, that looks so much nicer. I was super. I even said, I'm concerned that this is just like a thing, like, oh, this is cool, and then it would be abandoned like the next release, or it wouldn't be a regular. It wouldn't be a standard solution.
Come on, not
And
in
that's
Laravel.
still I'm
That never
still I'm
happens.
still I still have that concern, but I'm way more vested in it now. I mean, I am way more invested. Like
So you should be even more
I
concerned.
am.
He's invested enough that he'll maintain it once it gets dropped.
So yeah, you guys should check it out, man. The blade components is just changing. I'm not a big front end guy, and I love the blade components because of that, because it allows me to do more stuff in the front end easier.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and it's basically like view syntax for the back end.
Exactly. Yeah. It's. I think.
So
I,
it's
I
it's
think
like
it's actually
making a view
based on
component,
Vue.
but it renders in the back end. Yeah, it looks like it very
And
much
and it
is.
and again, it it it. What did you say earlier? Partners up. Not, what were you saying about the pear whiskey? Um. Anyways, it's also very close to the Livewire syntax. So once you start using the blade components, using Livewire just becomes natural after. Because basically, Livewire at that point, Livewire is just another blade component.
Right. Livewire is like the model component
Right.
to view.
So it's cool, man.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
I'll
check
look
it
at
out. I got an old baseball friend watching. I don't know if he's still watching. He's probably passed out by now. Andy Wilson. Andy Wilson's with us. Three bagger. This guy would hit more triples than anybody I've ever played with. I don't know how the man did it. A triple is probably the hardest hit to make in baseball. It's easier to hit a home run than it is to hit a triple. And this guy would hit a triple like every week. The guy hit a triple. I don't know how. It's not like he was fast. He wasn't a speedster. Trust me. But yeah, see, look, he's still here.
Wow. If he's not a Patreon, you can't promote him any more than that. No.
Oh,
Are you guys excited for PHP 8?
yeah.
Yes. We just talked about it on a PHP podcast.
I was just thinking, like, didn't we just have this conversation? I was like, oh yeah, that was another show.
What do you guys think about the attribute stuff?
I don't know enough about it. It looks promising because it gets rid of what we're doing in doc blocks, right? For the most part.
Yes, it does more than that. It gets rid of actually what we're doing a lot in service providers.
How is that?
So I have an event and an event listener, and to tie those two together, I have to go into the event service provider in Laravel and say this listener listens to this event. This would allow you to define listeners in the event. So when the event fires, it defines its listener as part of the doc block or as part of the attribute. So right now, that there's the one database engine Doctrine that does all of this doc block based functionality.
Mm-hmm.
Laravel does a lot of this functionality by using service providers instead of doc blocks. So what this allows is for an official type of doc block, an official type of attribute that can be looked up through reflection, which is very fast. And you can do any magic thing you want to with it within a framework.
See,
it's very fast. It's fast, except for the fact unless you have thousands and thousands of files, right? Because you still have to load up all your code.
But only the ones that are being loaded at time of execution will register. And reflection is very good at finding these little bits and pieces among all of your code. So right now, there are in Laravel there are on-demand service providers. There are service providers that are not loaded unless they're explicitly called, and then there's implicit service providers that are loaded when every execution of the program. And this puts everything in the on-demand area. Now, my big thing about this is going to be a total functionality clusterfuck. This is going to allow a framework to become even more of its own domain, its own universe, away from PHP, because the functionality is completely programmed into what framework you're using. There is at the time of recording, there's no default functionality for attributes. So there's a proposal for a set of keyworded default attributes that are supported, like JIT, saying that this section should be just-in-time compiled. But those are just RFCs at this point. They're not official.
But the attributes themselves have been accepted for 8, right? They
Right.
did pass.
So essentially, throwing these double greater than, double less than lines in your code won't throw a fatal exception and can be looked up by reflection. That's all that's changed. The actual functionality is up to you. If you use reflection to view the contents of a file and then get these attributes and then handle them the way you want to handle them, that's on you. The same way that the container object for Laravel is its own thing separate from PHP, or the way it handles dependency lookup. But everyone and their mother is going to have their idea of how best to use this thing. And I can imagine, now not Laravel 8, because Laravel 8 is going to be out in September, I believe.
It's whenever the Laravel Online, probably, I think, event is. Yeah, I think that's September.
Yeah, I think that's September. PHP 8 does not go official until December, but I'm guessing Laravel 9 will have massive changes to support annotations.
Do you see it as being a big shift on how we code just in general?
I see it, like I said, I see it as being a mess when it starts out. If Taylor wanted to get rid of routes and define routes in annotations, he could.
Interesting.
If he wanted to replace all the service providers with annotations, he could. If he wanted to replace functionality within Eloquent with annotations, he could. It depends on how crazy he goes with it. That depends on how we end up implementing
And I've seen that before. I've seen routes handled in annotations before. I can't remember where I saw that. Is it
Symfony does that.
it?
Yeah. I think CodeIgniter did it as well recently. But
yeah, so you'll be able to put these attributes basically anywhere, it looks like.
Yeah, so it's not just an attribute of a method or a function, it's an attribute of anywhere you want it. It can be an attribute of a variable. It can be
class.
Wow.
Yeah, classes, anonymous functions.
Parameter into a function.
Right. Like it's so flexible that people could really fuck everything
this
up.
Is where
really.
This is what starts to look like magic to me. I remember seeing it in the Doctrine presentation. I'm like, this.
So it is magic because it's using reflection, and I like to think that anything that uses reflection is considered magic because you don't have to understand the black box component in the middle. What needs to be done is make sure that it doesn't look like magic, that it follows some kind of standard. Yeah, which there's no PSR for it. I think that's where we're going to end up. I think someone's going to write a PSR for attributes, and that'll be the end of the discussion for a decade. But if someone doesn't, it could get really, really messy. There are examples that have annotations on every third character in a method. You've got the function declaration, the parameters, variables, loops within the declaration. I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah, I didn't really think through it that much, but yeah, you bring up some good points. Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be good to see what.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
We had talked on the other podcast about some of the other new things coming to PHP 8 since that's what started this. But I'm in agreement. This could be very messy very quickly.
You were excited about one of the. What was it, a return? What were you excited about, John?
So I like the union types. Actually, everything that Eli talked about and finally was good. Um, Being able to reference the class based on an object variable you have instead of right now we use that colon class on class names, but you don't know what your object or variable is an instance of. So you have to use get class. So that's just a nicety. Uh, Static return types is another interesting one where you can already uh, type hint on self instead of static, but that breaks down in when you start doing inheritance. When you're extending classes, that doesn't always work out the way you expect it to. So now you'll be able to type hint on static. And then the union one is really good for legacy applications, and that's what I work in a lot is legacy applications, where if you are returning either some thing, an array, an integer, an object, or you're returning false on error, which so many methods do, the union types
internal PHP internal methods.
yeah, PHP internal methods do it. A lot of the code I work in does that because it took me forever to convince them, no, you should either return something or throw an exception. So now you can actually type hint to say this is going to return false or some object. It's going to return false or an array. And it's not like it's just to that extent. You could say it's going to return a Boolean or an array or this, which kind of defeats the purpose of it, in my opinion. But there's also where you used to put a question mark in front of the type. So it'd be null or an array. You can actually say, now you can actually include null. So null pipe array would be null or array.
Yeah, and this fixes a lot of the complaints that I had about when they introduced it in the first place. They introduced typing, but didn't introduce union types. Didn't have null as a return value. Didn't have void as a return value. So this just fixes.
Void is one.
It wasn't initially.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
No. You
I
asked.
appreciate your honesty.
That I have a lot of eloquent models that share functionality, so I can pass in either this model or this model, and union types lets me do that, and keeps the code strong. It's also very important for the JIT compiler. The JIT compiler needs to have types to function properly. So the more things get typed, the more things run properly through just-in-time compiling.
So when you had that before, couldn't you have both of those things implement some interface so that you could still have that functionality?
Yeah, but that would mean writing dozens and dozens of interfaces because it was partially shared functionality.
Gotcha.
I knew what the shared functionality was, but telling the actual system what the shared functionality was, I have 300 methods on one of my models, and 100 of them are shared with one other model or two other models.
You've been validated in chat there, Thomas.
Chat loves me.
Hey, fun fact. While we're at this pause, I was talking about Andy Wilson earlier, and I played baseball with him. I don't know if you guys are aware or if you guys put it together, but our little PHP ugly logo that's in the lower right-hand corner of our stream, or left-hand corner, I don't know. It's right-hand corner for me. He's the artist that did that for us.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we would not have known that.
He's a good guy. He's a good one. He's a keeper.
And now he's listening to us saying, "Why did I design that logo? I should have made it way uglier."
And look, I'm even
All
even
right,
shaved.
so we'll move on. We'll
Except
move
you
on
have a
from
beard now, John. So we're off. But I don't know. We're pretty close to our
yeah. We need
thing.
a new logo. Um, so
PHP 8.
last
So
we you have more for it?
I do.
Okay.
Trailing commas and parameters, which is a tiny little thing that will backwards compatible break everything once it's implemented.
It won't backwards. It's not required.
No.
No, but if I put a trailing comma in a parameter right now, then 7.4 will throw an exception.
Yeah, well, of course, and you wouldn't do that. But I've got to say, and this is a nitpick.
That's not backwards. That's not
Yeah, that's
backwards
not
breaking.
But forwards breaking.
You're same thing. Hey, you know what? If you put
Yeah.
attributes in your code right now, it's going to break too. Just FYI. So don't do that. but this is a pet peeve of mine. People were excited about that, and I get the tendency when you're coding to do that, but like I'm not great with grammar, but that's like one of the things that like sticks in my head. It's like, why would you have a comma at the end? Like, there's nothing behind it. It shouldn't be there. It's bad grammar.
No, but so I use it with arrays all the time, and it's actually become a standard in our coding style guide that when you have an array, you have the trailing comma, especially when your parameter list is long enough that you break it onto separate lines. It's nice. It's nice to have that comma after the last one. So if you ever add a new one, and it's stupid, but your diff only affects one line, doesn't affect two lines.
Yeah, that seems kind of goofy. I'm wondering though if Composer is going to, well, it wouldn't even be Composer. The JSON standard doesn't allow for it. So I wonder if this standard will start to spread, because it would be weird to remember. Oh yeah, I'm in JSON now. I can't do this in JSON. You know.
But we already have that with arrays.
I believe ES6 does support that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. I think
but not the JSON standard itself.
Oh, I'm not sure. I think ES6 sets the JSON standard.
That would be my only
Either
gripe
way.
is if it breaks from a traditional standard of other development languages, because it's just another step of another switch you have to remember in your head is, hey, I'm in JavaScript now, I'm in JSON now, I can't. I mean, I guess you do that anyways to a degree, but this is such a minor thing. It's like it's not buying us enough to have to remember that we can't do it in other languages.
I like it.
That's fair.
I like it in arrays. I'm gonna like it in this.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's going to impact my life a whole lot.
Big thing for me is that there's these 3 new string functions, and there's a new stringable interface, and there's
really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I hate that. I would love to have seen a string object in PHP that implemented all of the string functions in the object. I know Laravel has a string object which can kind of do this kind of stuff, but to allow it in base PHP would just be so nice, to make strings an object and have the toString return the string that's produced. Like, that would even be a backwards compatible change. And I don't know, JavaScript does it, Java does it, C# does it. Like, everything treats strings as an object. Why are we not treating strings as an object?
That's true. That's a good point. I actually ran into that a little bit today as well. I realized that I was dealing with a string and not an object.
I think one of the biggest hurdles to doing this is that all of the string functions that are built into PHP are the ones that are 20 years old and really, really, really bad. So you'd have to standardize the naming convention for the object, and you'd have to standardize the return values, and you'd have to standardize the needle haystack convention. Because right now in PHP, that's the thing that everyone complains about. If you see someone saying why PHP sucks, they mean that the string functions suck. Because they still do.
I forget what the rule was,
Needle
but
haystack.
they pointed out that there's a pattern to which ones are needle haystack and which ones are haystack needle. Now I can't remember what that was.
Yeah,
but when
that's
they
the
said
problem.
I was like, oh my gosh.
I think array. I forget now too, but yeah, you're right. Once he said what the pattern was, I was like, oh, yeah, he's actually right.
Right. Strings were one way, arrays were the other for some reason.
Yeah, and I can understand that, but it doesn't work anymore. And having string POS return 0 as false is the worst. There's a lot
changing
of
that. I'm confused on that one because I know there's a new string contains method.
Right, that's just a brand new method.
Right, we used to have to do a string position. If it equals false, it doesn't contain it. If it equals 0, it's at the first character or it's at the beginning. So you had to differentiate between 0 and false.
Yeah,
making
still
it
stupid.
different.
Especially in a weakly typed language.
Yeah, that's what happens.
0 is false. The string of 0 is false, and false is false. Null is false. You have to.
You can move to Java. You can change. You don't have to stay here.
No, I heard your stories about it. It's terrible.
No, please go.
It is
Java,
terrible.
You can do Java pretty. I'll get that domain for you.
I just saw that they're also making it where you don't have to specify. There's a non-capturing catch now. I like that. Not that it matters, except for I hate when
where would you use that?
Well, you catch something, but maybe you log that an error has happened, but you don't log what the error was for some stupid reason. Or I have plenty of catches where I'm like, I don't care about this exception. I just don't want it to bubble up. So I'm going to catch it and let the process continue, or I'm going to return at that point, and I do nothing with the data. But my IDE complains because I have a variable that I've done nothing with. And it's like, you should log this, or you should do something. It's like, or I can just ignore it like I am right now and leave me alone.
That seems like better time could have been spent somewhere else.
This fixed somebody and made somebody happy, so it's going to make me happy. Leave them alone. I like it.
What else we got to talk about?
All right. Are you done with PHP 8? I know I started to move on, and you had more.
I'm done with PHP 8.
You sure? You didn't even get into abstract methods. No, let's go back to Java because you never contacted me to say, hey, let's talk about your image issue that you were having.
I told you to contact me.
No,
that's not how this works, bud. I finally fixed my issue. The app was released. Everyone's happy. I'm happy. It's still a piece of garbage because I wrote it 5 years ago, and then I hacked it together 5 years ago. I hacked it to pass and work for now.
I'm sure the client loves to hear that.
I'm happy it's out.
It's totally crap. It's total crap. I just hacked it together. Yeah, we're selling this.
No,
barely works. Multiple backdoors.
They know about it. They know that it was one of those apps. It's like, let's not spend much money. Let's do this as quick as possible. Because they already had an iOS app, so the Android app was just let's see what happens here. Yeah, and it was
Try to
it
hit all
it
3
was
points of the triangle.
it was semi-successful and it worked until, Google changes Android up a little bit and you need to update the app. And now I hit a bunch of roadblocks, but worked my way through all of them, learned a ton, look at the code. I'm like, I could spend another week or two in here easily cleaning this up and making it so much better with the things I've learned over the past 5 years. But they will not let me do that. So I got it working.
Hey, we
Bottom
were talking
line,
about PHP Storm earlier.
just have to jump through hoops.
John, you discovered. I didn't know about it either. You discovered a new little trick in PHP Storm today.
Oh yeah, the local history of a file saved my ass for some reason. I spent I spent 90 minutes changing some code, refactoring it, fixing the test, and I was really happy with the work that I had achieved and I wasn't on a branch I wanted to be on. So I'm like, this is going to be a hot fix. I want to go branch from master. And when I did it in PHP Storm, I missed the branch to branch from. I branched from the wrong place, which was a very, very old branch that didn't even have these files anymore. And I'm sure there was some sort of warning that I completely missed. And I must have clicked a button or something. All my pages were gone except for one file that I was able to fix. And my heart just sank. I'm like, I just lost 90 minutes of work. I wrote to somebody saying, I can't believe this happened, but I lost it. And they're like, Storm has local history. I'm like, what? Immediately Googled it, found it. And yeah, so within PHP Storm, it's almost like a Git repo, and somebody else in our team said, no, it's just like an undo, but they're basically storing diffs along the way. So you can go back in time on your files, and I was able to get changes back,
So,
and it was very helpful. So
so
hopefully that
even though
helps somebody
you
else.
switched to a different branch, the changes that you had made to that file on another branch was still in the PHP Storm local history. Am I understanding that correct?
Right. and I don't know what would have happened had I switched back to the proper branch, so the files were back with the old version. I don't know how PHP Storm does it if the file no longer exists.
That was going to be my next
because
question.
I went into I went into the file browser, the file explorer, found it. Maybe if you just create an empty file, you can then get your history from it. That would be my guess. But yeah, just right clicking on the file, going to local history, looking at all the revisions, and easily rolling back to where I needed to be.
When you shared that, that was one of those things like, damn, I wish I had known about that. Like, I had done something very similar in stupidity about a month or so earlier. It wasn't a huge thing. It was like 4 lines of code, and I realized I'd lost them. Like, God damn, I got to redo that code. But yeah, that's good to know. It's very good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a complete refactor of code, and like I said, 90 minutes, which was ridiculous that I let it get that much code in there that deep without knowing what I was doing. I think it was because I set out down the road of, oh, let me just look at this issue that was reported, not thinking I was going to coding like that, and next thing I know, it was done.
Yeah, I was not changing subject kind of a little bit today, but I had started on some refactoring early this morning. And it was again, I mentioned I was working on Laravel relationships, and I had made something a pivot table, so it was a many to many relationship in both directions. That shouldn't have been that. It should have been a belongs to and has many relationship is what it should have been. So in one direction it was a one to one. The other direction it could have multiple. And so I started working on a refactor for that. and it was just one of those things where I'm like, this will take me about 15, 20 minutes to do. And like 2 hours later, I'm like in the weeds. So I'm starting to chase rabbits down holes because it didn't work. There were actually two issues. My refactor was actually working the way it was supposed to. I did miss a couple of things that I needed to fix, but the feed I was getting in was breaking, and I didn't take that in consideration because my feed had been working for the last 2 weeks, so I never even thought that the feed I was bringing in was breaking, but it was, and I didn't check it. So then I started chasing ghosts. It's like, wait a minute, I screwed up. My pagination's wrong. There's something wrong here. I'm missing this data, and I just started going off into the weeds. And I had gotten so frustrated at one point. I mean, I'm like a child when I code. I swear to God, I'm such a.
When he codes.
I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. It's not that important. I'm just going back to my other branch where it was working. And I go back to my other branch, and by this time, the other branch is broken too, because again, my feed is broken. And I switch over there, I'm like, come on! Like, how is this broken too? This is bullshit!
I'm gonna be on the couch back here, just balled up in a.
That's it. It's like, I've made bad career choices. Why am I doing this for a living? And it was such a simple thing too. It was just changing these relationships, and I just wasn't paying enough attention to everything. And I was so convinced that I had screwed up the relationship that I was refactoring, and I never thought to validate my data and make sure my data was still good. And that's, oh gosh, what an idiot I am. I don't know how people pay me for this.
I may have missed in the story. Do you have unit tests around
No,
it?
absolutely not. No.
How dare you even consider
Who are you
that?
talking to?
I'm telling you, when it comes to refactoring,
I've got to get better at it.
I'm more and more frustrated that I don't test as much as I should.
I've got to get better at it.
When I do refactor, when I refactor code that I have tests around, so nice.
Yeah, I did this interview, and they kept asking me like very uncomfortable questions, like, "Are you familiar with unit testing?" Like, yeah, I'm very familiar with it. So where do you use unit testing now? Oh, like use it? No.
You didn't say use. You said familiar.
Yeah, you said.
I've read articles.
And like, well, how do you? A lot of my answers were, I sure wish I was. I sure wish I was using it. Like, how's the Scrum atmosphere at your current position? Well, there's a bot in Slack.
Her name is Alice.
Yes. But I sure wish I was using it more. That was rough. I don't know if there's a way to get out from under that whole, like, my current environment does everything essentially wrong. Like, it's waterfall development. All of our tickets are pushed up to the main GitHub account and then merged by somebody. There's no continuous integration. There's no unit testing. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll just fire myself now.
You don't. Yeah, I guess that's the only reason you really would have CI is the unit testing. I mean, there's other things you could be doing.
CI builds too. So CI will build anything that you have in Vue or Angular or React, as well as unit test and then code sniffing. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff in CI that I like. Sure wish I had it.
Well, speaking of CI, John was right. GitHub Actions doesn't work on forks.
How many people have told us that I was wrong on that now?
Quite a few. If you remember a couple weeks ago, Gishu was pretty confident that we had configured it wrong, and John spent some time with Gishu, and they couldn't get it working. For those listening, Gishu is a regular listener. I haven't seen him tonight, but but yeah, so John spent some time and couldn't get it working, and then I had a friend reach out to me. Michael Dorinda reached out and he's like, "You guys are doing it wrong. This works. Laravel uses it in their project for pull requests, so it absolutely works." So he actually, we actually spent a time. We did some screen sharing and walked through everything, and then he he finds this article that basically says, yeah, this doesn't work in private repos. And so I sent it to John, and John's like, yeah, I already told you about this. I'm like, well, you didn't share the freaking article with me, man. I didn't know. I didn't know you had this information with you.
It's the new PHP Architect mini series where we interview famous developers and convince them that you can't do this in forked repos.
And watch him trying to fix it.
But what I don't don't understand is he saying that it does work in an open source repo?
He's absolutely, and if you go to the
that must be because open source repos have free actions.
Are they unlimited though?
I don't know. I haven't gone and looked at pricing at all, but when I first started looking into this, that was the reason for not allowing it, was that anyone could open up a pull request to run up your action bill. So if actions are free for open source, then it makes sense why they allow it. But if I had a project, what it still doesn't make sense is I'm paying those people, right, or I am specifically giving them access to my repo. As soon as I see them running up my actions bill, I will block access to that. It's private for them.
I totally agree with you. It seems backwards to me. See, I'm looking now, and I'm not seeing him. But I promise you, when I was here earlier this week, he showed me where. Maybe it wasn't the Laravel repo. Maybe it was one of the other repos in Laravel. But he was showing me where actions were running against pull requests. Yeah, I'm not seeing it now, so I don't know. I might be full of it. See, close. Let me open up a closed one here and see if we can see. Yeah, I don't see it in here now. He must have taken me to like an Illuminate repo or something. I promise you, he took me somewhere. He showed me one of the Laravel repos that does use it. But yeah, I agree with you, John. If anything, it should be maybe it was the framework one. It should be a thing of private repos first, because you have more control. Yeah, here it is. It was the framework repo that does it. So when a pull request comes in, so they're open pull requests here. You click on one of the open pull requests. Oh yeah, all checks have passed. Yeah, show all checks.
All right, but click. And are any of those the GitHub actions?
I think all these are GitHub actions. All these tests are the GitHub actions over here. If you go to actions, you go to tests. I don't know how to look. Oh, I guess we could pull it up in the repo, huh? Here they all over here. So yeah, that's what that is.
You're pointing at things I can't see, but that's fine.
Who's editing this week? Who's editing this week? All right, let's keep going then.
Yes, I forget we have audio podcasts, so yeah, this won't make a lot of sense. But in the Laravel framework GitHub repo, you see actions running against PRs in here. So it's definitely happening. They definitely use it. And of course, the PRs are coming from forked repos. I mean, that's clear in the PR. So it's a forked repo. It's coming in here and it's running GitHub actions. And even to today, I side with John. It makes no sense why this is accessible to open source projects or just open repos and not the private repos. I mean, I don't understand any security argument you make on this. Nothing makes sense to me.
It's still the pricing one that's the only thing that makes sense to me. If if GitHub Actions are definitely free for public open source repos, then there's no issue with possibly running up a huge GitHub Actions build that somebody's going to then dispute. We're on a private repo. Again, while I have control over that, if somebody even accidentally ran up a $10,000 GitHub Actions bill and I go to GitHub saying, I didn't authorize this, they're trying to protect themselves at that point, I guess.
All right, then give me the ability to turn off so it automatically runs, but give me the ability to manually kick it off. That's
right. Or give me a way to budget for it and say, hey, I'm willing to run up to, 5,000 actions, so I know what my bill will max out at, and it fails after that.
Your argument doesn't hold water if you use the GitHub workflow that apparently more people use, which is everybody pulls and contributes to one repo. There aren't any forks, because then you have the scenario you talked about. It's the same scenario, right? Of too many actions running and running up a bill.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't know.
It's weird to me. I don't understand why it doesn't work. It'll be I mean, we've moved on from Enterprise. We've moved on from Simver. This is our new bitch fest for the next couple of months until they change it.
I'm on board.
Okay. What else we have? Anything else? Where are we at? I feel like we've talked for an hour.
I'll close out on my fun weekend with my kid. Through this whole COVID-19 madness, everyone's stuck at home together. My wife finally said, "Why don't we do dates with the kids?" So we set aside Saturday.
You found out why?
We set aside Saturday was me and the 5-year-old, and she took the 3-year-old, and they did whatever they wanted to do. And I made it all around, what do you want to do? Whatever you want to do is what we're going to do today. He wanted to learn coding.
Oh. Because he knows you're a
so
asshole
that morning,
when it comes to board games, so he figured you'd go with something else.
Code your ass in circles, bitch.
So before we started the dates, the three of us, me, the 5 and 3-year-old, sat down and we started reading a little bit of Hello Ruby.
Adventures in Coding.
Adventures in Coding.
Hey, is that from our artist?
So this was a Kickstarter.
Wait, you started with Ruby?
Is that our artist?
No, it's I don't know who illustrated it.
Looks very much like I don't have the picture here. Oh, it's at the office still. Ninja.
Like
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Ninja
Girl, yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. I don't know if she illustrated or not. I'll have to look into it more. But actually, it doesn't say. So this was a Kickstarter I backed a few years ago. It's actually nothing about Ruby. Ruby is the character's name in the book. And it's more about getting kids to start thinking about how to solve problems, how to break problems down.
Confusing language names.
Yeah, of course. So it was a fun little read to get them kind of started with it.
Hold it back up
and then I sat down
for the people watching the stream. I have it on your. There you go. Perfect.
Sure. So I started with reading the book in the morning, and then when he and I started coding, I actually for the first time installed Scratch. I had never used it before, so we started playing around with that a little bit. And again, I'm trying not to tell him what to do. I'm trying to just let him explore. So we started watching a couple of little tutorials, and then of course he's just clicking around, and he finds examples. So he sees Minecraft, which he's never played, but one of his friends knows everything about Minecraft.
Never played?
Like, I want to try that. No. My kid, no, they don't play video games. excuse me for that, but no. So anyway,
So
he's playing
Minecraft
this.
is an amazing educational video game. You know, it has its own like coding interface internally.
Yeah, I've seen people like have built computers within Minecraft itself. I know
So
you can
angry
do a
right
lot
now.
of stuff with it. So anyway, he sees that, he starts playing with it, and all it is you're running and jumping over obstacles, and him not having a background in playing games is like, I don't know how to do it. Like trying and trying, and I'm just letting him fail. But I'd help him a little bit, and he would start, and I'd get to the end of that little level, and then jump in the lava so that he would have to try it again, and he was getting so mad at
But
me.
I'm a little
But
confused. I don't know how Scratch works. So the running and jumping he was doing, was that like he was doing it in code or?
In the game, so
No.
Scratch looks like jigsaw puzzle
Mhm.
pieces that have just predefined blocks of code in them, like small
Mm.
blocks of code. And it's a very, very, very high level language. So character dot jump is a block of code you can put in. So if
Yeah,
spacebar
we
character
didn't.
jump.
Yeah, yeah, we didn't get that far into it. So I did a combination of letting him play
Mhm.
with the code and play a couple of the games. So he played that. We went back to doing a little coding. Then he did a little. Somebody built the first level of Mario within
Oh.
Scratch, so I let him try that, and then we went back to coding. So we got to the point of where you could press the arrow keys and he had a cat character where you hit the right arrow key and it would move to the right. So then trying to get him to build more on that, he hit the left arrow key and the cat turned upside down. I'm like, oh no, we got a bug in the code. So it was just trying to help him learn to fail. Like we tried something, it didn't work. Let's work through solving
So
that.
obviously
And
you
he ended
taught
up
him
having
how
a lot
to
of fun.
log into Stack Overflow and find solutions.
Here,
The
copy and
first
paste this,
rule of
kid.
Stack Overflow is every question is a stupid question that's already been answered over here.
Yep,
That's awesome, man.
exactly. It, it was fun. It was him showing interest in something that I do. He hears that I code and wanted to know more about it. And he's like, so this is what you do? I'm like, sure. Not exactly. Not exactly. Drag and drop a bunch of blocks of code together.
So that was the
But
problem I had. My
it
kids
was
were interested in my coding when they were little. They said, "Can you show me some of your code?" And I just said, "No. I literally can't show you my
That's
code."
true. You can't. You could have started another little project though. I mean, you could have.
I did. I did start them on Scratch, um, but I was the guy from the SNL skit about IT, where like my son would start dragging pieces around and playing with it, and I was like, "No, no, no, move,
Let me
move."
do it.
No,
Move.
here.
that
Yeah,
is so hard. I so
It's
badly
so
want to be
hard.
like, it's like, no, if you do this, 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 and this, it'll work. But that's not the right way. They need to fail. And
Yeah.
it
I mean,
was,
I was 20 when my mentor started teaching me PHP by giving me a goal and then leaving me alone for a week. And I can't I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't leave him alone. I was like, no, 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 no. And it, you're jumping all wrong. You can't control the movement in the air. That's not fun for the user experience. You have to be able to at least slightly control the character. This has been tested over many iterations of games over the last 40 years. And you know what? Here, I'm just gonna you move over. Let's replace your designs. That doesn't even look like a person. That's stupid.
I can't imagine why your kids don't have an interest in coding anymore, Thomas.
Oh, they barely have an interest in breathing. They're driving me crazy.
Oh, Thomas.
uh,
Well, we'll
we're
get
supposed to
into
go
that
on
in
a
the after
high
show.
note.
Oh, I think that's Thomas taking us out. Is that it? Are we done?
Let's thank our Patreons before thank the Patreons before we take off. Our patrons
I
on
still got to
Patreon.
update the list, but yes, thank you, Patreons. I wonder if Buttery Crumpet is still on Patreon. If so, he is our longest running Patreon. is.
He is. He is indeed.
I'm sure some of these names have dropped, and I think a few have added on. But I will most definitely get that updated at some point. I promise. Thank you all, our Patreons, for your support. Okay, that's it. We are one step closer to episode 200. This is episode 191. It's in the books. I am your host, Eric.
I'm John.
I'm Tom.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
All right. Okay, I'm curious.
I thought
that was
I got it. This is for the special members only. My daughter is moving to California.
what? How old is she?
16.
I don't mean to sound like creepy. I was just curious how old she was to be moving to California. I realized after I said that sounded very creepy.
Your
Really?
daughter, huh?
I assume she has less
Yeah.
facial hair than you do? All right.
She's gonna go live with her dad.
Really?
It is.
Oh.
Yeah, she needs a change of scenery, and she's a sort of the same independent spirit that her mother is. And we've just sort of decided, okay, she can do this thing she wants because the entire school system is completely screwed up already anyways.
How's this sound from a mic?
Eric, you can stop recording.
Yeah, let me stop recording.
Oh, yes, stop the recordings.
How's the sound from a mic perspective?
Not as good.
Cool. These are the earbuds mic. That's good to know.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, another fun fact
Yeah.
about our friend Andy. He worked with Frank at Sony. So Andy's all over the place, man.
What happened to the episodes directory in Dropbox? It isn't
Shit,
there.
Did I screw something up? I was moving some stuff around earlier.
No, it's there. I see shows in there.
I don't-
PHP Ugly.
Oh, there we
shows.
go. There we go. I thought it was called
those shows.
episodes.
I actually meant to create the folder earlier today and I forgot.
Oh. I actually see episode 188 in the wrong spot too for some reason, but that's another
Not
topic.
worried about it. We're not on 188 anymore. We've moved on.
Zencaster is done.
Yes, Zencaster is done. Kill it.
Yeah, so it's gonna be an interesting. We're starting the empty nest process now. 2 16-year-olds and a 17-year-old. He's the oldest one's interested in the military, and
Something
yes,
So are you ready for that? Are you ready for empty nesting?
oh, I am. I'm doing great. I'm gonna get an office.
Mom's not.
No. And you know, I mean, I'm on medication that basically tells me that whatever happens, it's all cool. So, you know, I give her my rundown of what it means. She's sad, but we're accepting reality. You know, I mean, I told her it's basically a year before it was going to happen, anyways.
Mm.
So not a big.
This is for the daughter to be moving out. You mean?
Yeah. She's been dead set on moving out for at least 2 years now. So now that we can assure that she's moving into a safe environment with her biological dad, then that's fine by me.
Cool, man. And that's a permanent move for her?
We told her that it's whatever she wants. If she wants to come back a week later, that's the discussion we'll have. If she wants to come back a couple months later, that's fine. You know, she'll have to sleep in my office, but she'll deal with it.
My office, her former
You know, it's-
room, whatever.
We're at the stage now where the kids are old enough that our front door just has to be open
Yeah.
for them. for the next 10 years.
Yep, that's kind of how it is.
Because in 11, you disown them?
Mhm.
What?
Oh, if I could. No,
Weird.
it's important as teenagers that you give them the option to be free or live under your house and your rules. That reestablishes the authority of being a parent.
All right. Well, I'm gonna kill the stream. Everybody listening, appreciate you guys hanging out with us. It's been fun as always. Maybe see you guys next week. Bye.